You want to make a game? Yes. And that's how we started to work on a small game, a passion project during this summer. We had several ideas, but we stuck with this simple one, a simulation point and click RPG style game where you play as a merchant selling weapons and armor in a small town, which is in the middle of a conflict. There are three factions: the army that is occupying the town, it might be the law, it might be a foreign army, the rebels, and the civilians. And by selling them your wares, you influence which faction is most powerful. However, that is not your main goal. Your main goal is money, that sweet, sweet money. And you can play two ways. You can try to make as much bank before any of the factions win, or you can try to balance your sales between these factions and sell as much money that way, or just try to help one of the factions. The core gameplay loop, if that's how it's categorized, I don't know, would be week by week or round by round. You are selling to a person, you have a limited amount of items, and when the week is ended, you go and buy new items that we call the import shop. You get those new items, a new week starts, and you sell those to people. People come, they ask for specific items. You can sell them other items, but they will pay less, and so on and so on. After we decided to make this game, then I needed to pick an art style. Since my friend is a programmer and I'm more of a art person, I compiled in Pinterest a shit ton of art styles, then filtered it down to like 2 or 3, and then we double checked what he wanted, what I wanted, and we went with a Darkest Dungeon inspired art style. I loved the game, he loved the art style, but I didn't want to rip it off. So I chose a palette in Photoshop. I didn't create my own, I just took one and I changed the saturation to a bit higher than what Darkest Dungeon uses, to about 60 to 80. It helps me to maintain the same kind of feel for the whole color group used throughout the whole NPCs, screens, props, anything. But as I began to draw and experimented, I stumbled upon one fun thing. The first or second NPC I did, I went in with a purely gold yellow color and added a ring on one of the NPCs, and I find it so fun and such a cool aspect. I left the gold at 100 saturation, which is just a really aggressive color to your eyes, and it made sense to me. You're a merchant, you want gold, so you will notice gold in this muddy grayish environment. After that, as I was making more and more of these NPCs, clients, or avatars as you would call them, we kind of encountered a problem. We want this game to be replayable, or at least have some sense of uncertainty. And if we went the route of an avatar determines what faction the NPC belongs to, the player will pick through that quite easily, and the replayability and uncertainty will be just destroyed. So we could go two routes. One, I just make a lot of art, or something else. And we chose the second choice because I don't have that much time and I'm not as proficient with making so many characters. We decided with putting emphasis on dialogue. For example, if a NPC comes up and says, I want a knife to defend myself, that's most likely a civilian. If an NPC comes up and give me 2 swords, brand new please, you know that might be the army man. And that, we really liked that. It was a really fun solution, and I always didn't comprehend when people talk about games and how these brilliant ideas came out of lack of experience. Like when people ask, how did you come up with this art style? Well, I didn't know how to draw, and I just started drawing my own way with pixel art, and now it's just like Minecraft. The art style came from limitations, and so the solution with dialogue came from also limitations, and I really like that. After making about 15 character arts, I moved on to the shop interior and the import shop, and also some items. I wanted to make it crammed, I wanted to make it feel heavy, something like also from the Darkest Dungeon, but in its own way. So I experimented with the front panel of the shop and then the town, and after some playtime, I found that a third layer in between these two would work really well. And I added some arches that gives it this feel of selling in an alleyway, being an observer. These cloaked, shadowy figures coming to you and buying items, and you don't know who belongs where. You can see some quite clearly, but you don't know if this fat man could be a civilian or a rebel disguised. And it brings out the whole atmosphere. Then I started to work on the load screens and the start screen. The start screen was quite important. You have to get the feel of the whole game and the atmosphere just from looking at it. So I went in quite heavy. Just a lot of dark, that single hand reaching for a dagger, and then gold. It almost describes the game perfectly in a single sentence or in a single visual. And it has to be compelling, right? I made a few more screens and then I moved on to the load screen. I mean, we don't need a load screen. This is not a heavy game. But we wanted to introduce the player to this world, give some context to what's happening, and then tell them that pay attention to the dialogue and not the visuals as much. And we didn't want to make a tutorial. We want to make this game not as hand-holdy as others. We want the player to experiment themselves, and maybe the first playthrough they understand, oh shit, I sold too much to one side and I lost in like 10 rounds and didn't get as much gold as I could. And so this load screen is some flavored text and a tip from us directly to the player. And then also some visuals to get you in the mood and tell the story that you're a merchant coming to this town. And that's pretty much that visually. More will come. Currently I'm switching to more sound-based projects, looking for music, effects, and so on. We're not making any of it. We're just ripping it off royalty-free because we know it's not going to be a massive project. It's just for fun. And so I'm trying to save my time. We also want to make random week events to spice things up and encourage that replayability of like taxes being risen or lowered and you earning more gold, or maybe people come into town and they look for specific things, and it should be more fun. So I have still to make that. Afterwards, more NPC art, just to cram that, just to get more exciting things to look at, and so the NPCs wouldn't duplicate. And all that came from just me having fun and going through reference arts. I advise any of you who are struggling with indie game art to go through Pinterest or Google Images, find an art style you like, and try to make your art as close as you can to that you see. Just pull up that picture next to what you're working on and try to look at how they work with lines, what colors they use, where they put shadows, what strokes they use, and it will really help. And as longer you do it, it'll evolve, it will become your own, and you will get better and better at it. So what I'm saying is Pinterest. Use Pinterest. I think throughout this whole video, I haven't said what the name of the game is, but it's Blades to Shadows. If I did a good job and told you what we want this game to be, I don't think I need to explain the name to you. At first it was a placeholder, but it kind of stuck. Yeah, I should really end this video, but I don't know how. I'm just stretching out the video. Yep, if you liked it, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, dislike, and yeah, I'll come back with more devlogs maybe later. Update you guys. Yeah.